morning, everyone. Good morning. We're gonna, you can grab your last cup of coffee or your third cup of coffee. We're gonna get started. We're getting started a little late. We've had some people go to the wrong hotel, which I knew was going to happen, but thank you for the DoubleTree for having us back here for the first time in quite some time since before they did their renovations. So thank you all for coming. We can finally say happy summer, although Mother Nature is still working out what temperature she wants summer to be. This is going to be our last breakfast before we take a summer break and everybody goes on vacation, so we do appreciate you making the time. June is a really crazy month, as I'm sure all of your schedules can attest, so we appreciate that. I would like to give you a couple dates to put in your calendar before you do take those summer vacations. Our next breakfast is going to be our government breakfast, and that's going to be on Wednesday, September 26th. The place is to be determined. We are working on another cabinet member as our speaker to talk about something very timely that is affecting businesses in Chelsea. So please put that date in your calendar. And our Pot of Gold is going to be on October 17th, also a Wednesday. So with that, I would like to ask Alberto Calvo to introduce our speakers for today.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Rich. We have an exciting program today. It's talking about family business, and we have an expert, our local expert. As you may know, as a matter of fact, my family business is here. Mark is missing, but we've been working with Ted Clark on family business, and just a show of hand, who's owners of family business? And, 2, 3, 6. Very good. Okay, so they have let me introduce to you the two speakers, and I'm going to be short. And forgive me.
All right, we're going to hold him to that.
Matt is third generation of Scrub It Up, right? We have one here, if you haven't in Chelsea. The interesting thing is that Matt is a graduate of Babson. No? Babson MBA, okay? His credentials, which I can't invoke here, is financial. Bloomberg, help me out here, man. Oppenheimer, Morgan Stanley, New York, right? Now he comes and works in the family business. Scrub It Up. Good story. Ted is been working at the Center for Family Business at Northeastern University, and our family has been working with them for 4 years or so. And he has quite a background knowledge, deep knowledge on family businesses, those that work and those that do not work, and why, and walks us through the transition and all those family issues. So, with further ado, Matt.
Good morning. So I think it's better if these programs are more interactive, but I'll give you a brief background about my family's company, a little bit about me very quickly, and then we can jump to Q&A, and we can let Ted, the director of Northeastern Family Business Center, speak. So I'm third generation in my family's company. Scrub It Up Auto Wash Centers is New England's leading car wash company. We clean between 2 to 3 million cars a year across 4 states of New England today. But it wasn't always like that. So in 1966, my grandfather, who grew up in Dorchester, was actually in 1964, he was a traveling salesman out in California for supermarkets, actually, Alberto.
Really?
And he saw a beautiful car wash model on the West Coast, and people were wearing ties, and the lawns were beautifully manicured with flowers, and there were gorgeous buildings. And he said, there's nothing like this on the East Coast. In Boston, there was a reputation for car washes back in the 60s where your car would come out dirtier than when it came in. So he said, I want to try something like this. And he came back to Boston. And back then, I don't know if anybody remembers, but the way they put a car through the tunnel, through an automatic tunnel, was there was a chain with a hook. And they put the hook on the front of your bumper, and guys in the tunnel would crank the car through, and they would pull your car through the tunnel. And back then, a lot of bumpers came off. So he got some outside partners to give him some money, and to work with him on building the first store. It was in Watertown, Massachusetts. And he said, I'm going to have everybody in ties. I'm going to have beautiful flowers, beautiful building. But it had a lot of issues. The first one was not that successful. And so he learned a lot from that experience, and he bought his partners out. He sold the company. He sold that store. He went and built the next one, which was in Roslindale. And that one still exists today on American Legion Highway. It's one of the oldest ones in our company. So, and from there he was able to expand, and he actually worked with engineers to invent what's called the conveyor on demand system, where you put your car in neutral, and you guys have the roller up that comes and takes the car through. We didn't patent that system, so our family doesn't get credit for that. We went and invented our own soap formula because we wanted to be eco-friendly. So we have no phosphates, no chlorine, bleach. We have a biodegradable soap. We hired chemists to create the formula. It's exclusive to our company. We manufacture in Connecticut at a local chemical plant, and we distribute. And so my grandfather had a lot of visionary ideas. And today we don't wear ties anymore, but my grandmother is still involved with planting the flowers at a lot of the car washes. He also opened oil change centers, and that was a little bit ahead of his time. Before Jiffy Lube and Valvoline, it was a computerized system, and we franchised and then sold that model. And so what happened was, in the 80s, my dad and my uncle decided to come into the business. Both of the brothers had gone to Tufts, and they both went out and worked in the working world for a couple different companies, and they came back into the business, and together with my grandfather they started to grow the company up to I'd say 10 or 12 stores. We started to add, we realized early on as a family that one of the biggest challenges with our model was we were leasing our properties to start. And we would build a book of business, and after 20 years, if the landlord raised the rent on us, we had to leave. We used to have an old car wash in the Motor Mart garage in downtown Boston by the TD Garden, where there's a steakhouse now. And we couldn't keep it because the landlord at the time basically tripled our rent at the end of the lease, and we showed him the numbers, and the car wash couldn't sustain, so we lost that one. But we learned early on about acquiring property, so we started to acquire real estate where we built the car washes, and we opened a separate company, which was the real estate company, to be able to control the real estate assets. And we had all of the car washes pay market rate rents to the real estate company, and we used that as a property management company to take care of the real estate. So as a result, we grow very organically. We can only do about one new store a year because we're buying the land and we're very selective about where we go. And we were thrilled to be able to come into Chelsea. So when we saw an opportunity in Chelsea a couple of years ago, there was an existing car wash here, many of you guys know, on Eastern Avenue. And the gentleman who was running it was also a family business. His father, I believe, had helped him start it, or he had gotten started with his dad somehow, and then he took over. Mark was a very nice guy, and my dad and I worked with him for a smooth transition for Scrub Lib to be able to take over. Most people don't know this, but car washes require permits that are similar to liquor licenses. So they're very hard to get a car wash permit in a lot of Massachusetts towns because of the EPA, because of how you're dealing with chemicals and wastewater disposal and taking care of customers. So one of the easier ways is to acquire an existing facility if you can. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of the town on whether they'll give you a permit or not. A little bit quickly about me, and then I'll transition to Q&A and to Ted. My background is I went to Syracuse University undergrad in New York. I studied entrepreneurship and communications there, actually. And my first job was in the summer analyst program at Morgan Stanley in New York City. I was the summer after my junior year of college, I got into a summer analyst program, which allowed me to continue when I graduated in the finance industry, and I worked for Bloomberg and Oppenheimer funds. When the recession happened, I was lucky enough to still be employed, but I did not have a ton of respect for how things were being handled on Wall Street. And so my company had offered me the opportunity to move to a different team, and I asked them if I could take a severance package. And I actually took a severance package, and I went and taught math and English in the Bronx and in Harlem in New York for a couple of months to try and get grounded with everything that was going on. And then I went to graduate school. Moved back to Boston, and I did my master's in business at Babson. And then I had a small tech startup that I launched at Babson with some friends at MIT. And it was great, a great experience. We won the business plan competition, and we had office space on the Boston waterfront in the seaport. And one day my grandfather came to me and said, Matt, we'd really love to have you back at the family business. Now, in our family, all of the kids grow up working in the company. So what does that mean? So from the time that you're able to work, I'd say, legally, I mean, back then, I don't know, it was 12, 13, 14, today if it's 16, the first job is washing towels, basically. So you put towels in the washing machine and then you put them in the dryer. The second job is learning how to do windows. The third job is learning how to vacuum a car. And then you learn how to talk to customers and go into customer service and cashier. And so all of the kids, my cousins, myself, my dad, and my uncle, that's how we all grew up in the business. It was really important that we understood where the business came from that our grandfather started. So my grandfather came and talked to me, and he said, we'd love to have you back. And so I said to him, well, am I going to be washing towels again? So he said that there was an opportunity for a director of business development and strategic partnerships in the company, and that they wanted to expand how they were partnering with other businesses in the community and other organizations, and they wanted somebody to help them with new revenue streams. And so I asked him if I could take a couple more months with my startup, which I did. And then I figured out a transition process to move from the startup to the family business, and that was about 6 years ago. So today we've grown the company to 19 stores, 19 locations across New England. We've added one new store every year that I've been there, and thankfully year-over-year growth has been our best ever in the history of the company. Nothing due to me, it's all teamwork. I certainly bring new ideas, but one of the most important things about being in family business is working together and understanding that you wear multiple hats. So for me, even though I'm director of business development and strategic partnerships, I wear a lot of different hats. And if that means that I have to be on site somewhere because they don't have enough help, then that might mean I have to go help out in a certain location. So actually, one of the things that we require now for family members coming back into the company in a later career path as an adult is, in addition to working outside the company for a number of years, and ideally getting a master's degree, everybody when you come back has to do a 6 to 12 month rotation program through all of our stores as an assistant manager. So my first 6 months back, I was rotating through every single store as an assistant manager in training. Now the funny thing about that is, how many of you guys have seen the show Undercover Boss? Okay, so a lot of the stores, they didn't know me, right? So I was rotating through initially as an assistant manager in training, but not every employee knew me. So for me, it was a great opportunity, without people knowing that I was part of the family initially, some of the employees, to get to know them and really understand the culture of the organization and see where there were some bottlenecks and understand all of the structure that my grandfather and my uncle and my dad had put in place. So that was a great opportunity. And so today, as I mentioned, we've had tremendous success, but we're fortunate and grateful that we're able to work together as a family, and hopefully, and my cousins just joined the company. I think that's the newest thing, is in the last year, my uncle has 2 kids who just joined the company. So now there's 3 of us in the 3rd generation. And with that, what I want to do is open it up to Q&A and
How about if we hold the questions?
or let Ted Clark speak. Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
and then we'll,
Yeah.
okay? Is that, yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited about this. I've known Alberto for a number of years, probably 4 or 5 years in the family, and work with them. It's been a great pleasure. And I still know Matt's grandfather, Marshall. He was actually one of the founding members of the Center for Family Business. So it's great fun to be here with him today. It's kind of like closing the loop to some degree. So my name is Ted Clark. I'm the Director of Center for Family Business at Northeastern University. We were the 4th center founded in the United States in 1991. So if you think about this, 1991, we were the 4th center in family business. There was no opportunity to get education on family businesses if you were in a family business. So some of the work that Marshall did and the other founders was really, as I think he used the word visionary, it truly was visionary. And I've known Marshall for 20 years. So, but some of you always hear like a little tidbit here and there. And some of the things I heard just a couple of minutes ago were kind of fun. And I thought for a few minutes I was like hearing an overview. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie The Founder, but it's a story about Ray Kroc. If you haven't seen the movie, you guys will love it. He was a traveling salesman selling multi-mixers, and he came across this great business. He had to go check it out. It was called McDonald's. And he said, I'm going to do that too. So it eerily models Ray Kroc, but I think Marshall did a really good job with it. Very interesting. And it was very interesting because part of the story of McDonald's was it was all about the real estate. And it was an absolute key. So very much a visionary. A visionary way back in the late 80s and early 90s to think we needed education on family businesses. And so if you think about it, 1991 is not that long ago, really, to have no information on family businesses. So he was really a visionary in that as well, and he still participates in the center. It's always great to have him around. So one of the things that I think is really hard for a family business is to get good information. Where do you go for information? Who do you trust? How do you find it? Where do you learn from? And what I find at the center is that the best place for information about family business is from family businesses. The phrase that I love, absolutely love this phrase, practice precedes theory. So the practice of what everybody's doing and learning from them is the greatest way to learn about your family business. So who's from a family business? Just another show of hands. A lot of times I find, and let me know if you guys find this as well, it's lonely at the top. Nobody seems to understand because we're different. We're a family business. Have you had that thought? Well, it's not that you're different. It's just that some of the issues are difficult to discuss and you don't know where to go, and it's hard to have that discussion. And that's what we do at the center. We provide an opportunity to get together with other family businesses in a confidential, non-commercial environment. So you're able to have a discussion about the things you'd like to talk about. So one of the things that I did was, just being the kind of guy that I am, I looked at the title of the program, and it said, The Benefits and Burdens of Being in a Family Business. So there's benefits and burdens. So I like to ask everybody that's out there, family business, what's the benefits of being in a family business? What's that? No boss.
Job security.
Job security.
Really?
You control everything.
You control your destiny.
Control everything. Oh my God. I love that one. I'm in complete control. You must be the owner.
My wife is over there.
Oh.
Here's
You know how that works, right, Betty?
Betty.
What are the other benefits?
Family loyalty
Family loyalty,
and trust.
trust. So what I always like to say is, the good news is, and then you fill in the blank. The good news is we're from a family business. The bad news is,
I have a bad news. I make my daughter cry at a business meeting.
Yeah.
You
I've
also
seen
cry?
that, I've seen that.
Probably have.
Yeah, she cries at them.
So the good news is, we have complete control. The bad news is, complete control. So what you find is it's really a matter of perspective for family businesses quite often. The good news is we're our own boss. The bad news is we're our own boss. The good news is, what was some of the other good news?
You get to work with family.
You get to work with family. The
Bad news
bad news is
you get to work with
I work with those I love. So what you find with family businesses is that they can either be the greatest joy or great problems. And it's really a matter of perspective. It's how you interpret these things and how you look at them. My general belief is, and I honestly and truly believe this, having worked with family businesses for 20 years or so, they are the best type of business out there. When they work well, you can't beat them. And when they don't work well, they are great fun to watch.
There's a family business next door.
And wasn't that entertaining to watch?
Yeah.
And you could learn a real lot from what they do, and you know, what they do is very educational. Learn not to do those things. So the good news is your family business. The bad news is your family business. I honestly believe it's about perspective. If you take the good part of it and you put it in the right perspective, it is the best. If you take the good part of it and you look at it the wrong way, it's a problem. But I honestly believe this, that when a family business works well, they're unstoppable. The best businesses on the planet are family businesses. They bring all the right stuff to the table: trust, loyalty, altruism, respect for the members of the family. So they are the strongest businesses. They do a few things differently. You know, you might hear all the time, you need to be more professional. You need to be like a corporation. My question is, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to burden yourself with some of the worst business practices on the planet? A 13-week window of profitability. You have the opportunity to invest long-term. You have the opportunity to grow organically, as we heard this morning. You can grow long-term. You have control. You don't have to answer to shareholders. So you have these great opportunities, but you need to learn how to use them in a more effective way often. But it's a matter of perspective. And when it works well, it's unstoppable. You just have to understand that you need to look at them in a way that works well for you as a family. So you could hear me yak all day. I don't think anybody wants that. I think it'd be great if we could open it up to questions. There's a lot of things to talk about. If we have Matt come on back up, and happy to answer.
I'll join you.
Oh,
I'm also a family.
You're from a family business, Alberto?
I have one question. And this is for you with regards to Scrub It Up. You mentioned that you're in multiple states, you're buying existing facilities to make it easier.
Or sometimes ground up build.
Okay,
And we had many years that we weren't able to afford to buy because we had so much debt. So we've been paying down debt for a lot of years to be able to be in a position that we could grow. And as I said, we also lost some stores along the way. We failed in a couple places. I can tell you we had a store in Auburn that was a complete failure. But yes, today we're in a position where we're able to acquire or build hopefully approximately one new store every 1 to 2 years.
so my question is tied to the customer experience. we tend to go to one place, scrub it up, and we have a certain experience, and we expect that same experience, format, or setup in the next scrub it
Yeah.
up. But if you're buying out existing places, that might be impossible to recreate. So
Yeah.
how do you make those choices and how do you balance out that experience?
That's a great question. So it's funny that you bring up customer experience because I didn't get to talk about this at all when I was giving the introduction. So one of the number one core values of our family is the customer experience, right? And one of the things we struggle with so much is making it consistent across every place. Now, there are things that we do that are just scrub it up focused on the customer experience. So I don't know, how many people in this room have been to a scrub it up? Okay, thank you. So many of you may be aware of some of these things that I'm going to share with you, and some of you may be not. So we give away free peanuts and pretzels. Actually, we switched from nuts to only pretzels now because of the nut allergy, because we're nuts about our customers. And we don't, and that's an example of something that we spend money on extra. So we give away free pretzels, free drop cloths when you're pulling into the car wash tunnel. There's white, thick drop cloth paper towels for inside your glove box in case you spill coffee in your car. Free litter bags for the inside of your vehicle. When you get out of the tunnel, in the tunnel, we're one of the few car washes that pays to heat the air that goes on your car. So we're paying for natural gas for hot air. As I mentioned, we pay for our exclusive soap formula. And when you get out of the tunnel, we have what's called our satisfaction cart, where we provide complimentary towels and free window cleaner. And now in a lot of stores, we have free vacuums. Many of you may have been to the Chelsea location and seen the battles that go on over there for the free vacuums. We're trying to fix that too. So part of all of those things, why would a company give away free peanuts and pretzels? Oh, and we have dog treats for dogs and stickers for kids. Why would a company do that? It's to provide a customer experience. Now, one of the biggest challenges is I can buy a new location or build a new location, and I can put the dog treats in where the cashier works in the cashier booth, and I can put the stickers there. But I can't make sure that the cashier every single time gives the vehicle that has the kid a sticker or the vehicle that has the dog a dog treat. So we're working really hard right now on training programs. And we actually just hired a couple of outside vendors to build training programs similar to Roche Brothers or Disney or Enterprise Rent-A-Car so that we can try to get more of a consistent employee experience. But when we buy a new location, what we do is we interview all of the employees and we make sure that everybody's committed to the customer first experience. So since my grandfather started the company in 1966, there's always been one rule, and that's the customer satisfaction guarantee. That means that no matter what happens, if you're not satisfied with the service that you receive, we'll either do it again for free or refund your money in full. And that's one of the only ways we've stayed in business for over 52 years. If you're not happy with the experience, let us know how to make things right. We'll do the service again for free to your satisfaction or refund your money in full. I don't know how many businesses have that policy, but that's our policy. Now, a lot of people don't know about that customer satisfaction guarantee. We put it on the wall, we educate our employees, but how many times have you been to a business, you had a bad experience, and you leave and you go write a 1-star review on Yelp? And we're cleaning over a couple million cars a year, so you have to imagine we have some people who come, they don't have the experience that they imagine, and they don't give us a chance to make things right, and then they go post a 1-star, and then I have to call them and explain that we have the guarantee or send them a message, and then usually they come back and let me either give them their money back or do it again for free to fix it. But that's something really unique. So I think to answer your question, we try to put all of the tools in place to provide the customer experience. And the second part is getting the employees to really follow using those tools and provide that experience. And we're working on new training programs now because as a family business, we want to be more consistent in that experience that we provide.
Well, my question was also tied to how the car washing, the facility itself, because you're constrained by what exists already.
So we spend a lot of money every time we buy a new facility that's existing. Instead of building a ground up one like we did in Chelsea, we gut the entire tunnel. There's over $500,000 of robotics inside the Chelsea tunnel. That's all new from us. So All the equipment we hand select, some of it we make ourselves. We have a partner who manufactures a lot of stainless steel equipment in Michigan, and we work with them, and so everything is hand selected for our tunnels to provide a consistent car wash experience.
Any other questions?
My question is a little less sophisticated.
Yeah.
It probably won't challenge you, but I once heard, rumor, that car washes recycle the water and you're actually getting your car washed with dirty water. I'm assuming
That's a
not
great
true.
question. That's a great question. Now, I wish, to be honest with you, that every car wash recycled some water because it's better for the environment. However, the answer to your question, I'll tell you how we do it at Scrub It Up, and then I'll tell you how other car washes, a lot of them do it. I don't know, I can't speak for everyone. I should also preface this by saying that I am vice president of the New England Car Wash Association, so I know most of the operators in New England because it's important for me to stay connected in the community. So we recycle in most of our locations some of the water that we use to go on the undercarriage of the vehicle and on the wheels. Because we feel that that's better for the environment if we can reuse some of the water to treat the wheels and the undercarriage. However, we feel very strongly that it's important to always put fresh water on the surface of the car, anywhere where there's paint or molding, etc. So that's how we do it in our locations. Now, some stores, you're absolutely correct, they may recycle everything, and they would have to treat the water as they're recycling it. To do it the proper way, they would have to treat it in a tank before it goes back on the car to ensure that you're not having potential damage to the vehicle or bad water on the car. And then some places, they don't recycle the water at all. To be honest with you, a lot of the places in New England, they can't afford to put a reclaim system in that recycles the water, and so they're just using fresh water.
Let me, this fellow is lonely here. So.
Yeah, let's ask Ted
But
some
let
questions.
me start the. I'm an engineer. They're gonna hate me for my family. 7 years, and I joined the family business. Okay, my wife, who started it, my daughter, and her husband, who's gonna make it today. They're gonna take the reins, and my wife and I are gonna go into the sunset with the help of Ted. But I went to visit this guy. Why? Because 35 years in industry. Working in business, and right, there's no family there, right? So I went to visit Ted. Said to him, so Ted, what is it? Do you teach accounting? No. What he does is not taught in business schools. Simple. He talked about peer reviews, right? Oh, peer
groups.
Boards of
Learn
advisors.
from the other family businesses in the room. And you say, oh my God, I'm not that bad. And I more importantly, brought Vivian and Mark to the group. And the stories are fascinating. And he has a couple of businesses that were really in tough shape. Won't say confidential. He helped us straighten up. Questions for Ted?
Let me just share one thing that I want Ted to share with all of you. So Ted, because my grandfather is helped found the center where Ted's the director, Ted has studied and worked with family businesses for a long time. And so he has a lot more knowledge than I do about the future of family business and succession planning. And Ted actually shared with me something interesting recently, which is that technically speaking, the way my family is doing succession planning, we're destined to fail. Okay? And not destined to fail, but likely to fail in how we pass on from the next generation to the next, because Ted possesses some knowledge about all of the family businesses that have made it over 100 plus years to 4th, 5th, 6th generation, how they have done it. And I think it's important that he shares that with you and he answers that question on the top.
My name is Sergio. So I own, with my wife, a local business, and it's a family business, of course. It goes a little bit to Vivian, who cries because I made my wife cry. By the way, the business was started by, bad boy, was started by her father, who made her cry. And, my wife quit on her father about 10 times, and she just quit on me another 10. So, but anyway, so 2 questions, and it goes to the basic question of succession planning and also conflict resolution within the family. We deal with conflict resolution with our employees, which is relatively easy, but how do we deal with the family and how we can resolve conflict and how we can maintain clear lines of communication when sometimes that is extremely difficult because again, the relationships between the family members are fragile and we want to keep our family intact without having to delve into the business and saying you're fired or whatever is necessary to get rid of that. Succession planning, the other part of it, we have 2 sons and initially they were interested in the business and now they're going off into the world and we're left like, oh, I want to retire, like Alberto. And, and it is really hard. And then what do we do? How do we manage that? And lastly, I need an application for come and see you, Ted.
So it's very, very difficult. And you hit one of the keys, communication. What I hear over and over and over is you can't communicate enough. You can't talk too much. Get everybody talking. The more you talk, the better off you are. And the reason for that in part is clear expectations are set so that everybody understands where you're going and what you're doing. I think it's very, very important. So there's 3 keys. But before I hit the 3 keys, I've got to say, I don't think they're destined, but I think statistically, they're in a very tough spot. Getting past the 3rd generation is extraordinarily difficult. Getting to the 3rd generation is extraordinarily difficult. The good news is they've been very successful. The bad news is they've been very successful. When you have something worth fighting for, you have something worth fighting over. So there's a statistically likelihood of a fight. If you look long term, and again, practice precedes theory. I honestly believe this, and some of the theories I think are a little less than accurate. If you just look at businesses statistically, the longest term businesses, the ones that make it 14, 15 generations, the majority of them have one thing in common: consolidated ownership. Because I get to be the boss. Being the boss and having ownership matters in a family business. It's how the vast majority of them have survived for generation after generation. The other thing to do, from my research, is diffuse ownership so quickly, and more than likely you have to do it with some external equity event to bring in enough money to satisfy an estate plan for the current owners so that it can get to the next generation, but to the point that none of the next generation has enough ownership that they can buy it back. And then they might have something to fight over, but they don't have enough to make it a battle that they can win. So you have to diffuse ownership so quickly that nobody can buy it back. Like Walmart, exactly. So you see the large, more public, I'm never saying go public, remain that family business, but if you can act more like that in one respect, statistically, you may have a better chance. The 3 things that the experts tell you, and they almost make it sound like it's causal. I don't think it's causal. I think it's an aspect of what the more successful ones do. And I think they've been poster children at doing the right thing for a very long time. I think that they are poster children. Great lessons here. But one of the things is you want to have boards of advisors. You need to have an outside group of people to look at you as the boss and say, what are you, nuts? That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because you know your family's not going to say that, and if they do, you're just going to yell at them and make them cry.
Yes.
So you got to have somebody from the outside that can give you some advice so that you're not in a bubble and hearing the same old thing all the time. So you need a board of advisors. You need to have strategic planning and plan for the future of the business so that the business can grow. It's fundamental for long-term success of a family business. If it doesn't grow, there's no reason to have kids. There's no reason that the kids would want to come in. And if it doesn't grow, if the kids do come in, there's no way that the family can afford to have the senior generation live off the business and the next generation live off the business. So estate planning is fundamental for succession planning. If you don't have an estate plan to leave the business, you can't have a succession plan because you need to leave the business.
You're looking at me. Yeah, I'm following
I'm
all
just-
those.
I'm just-
Sir,
I'm
I'm
just
following
saying.
all those.
You have to actually leave the business to get it to the next generation.
We hear that. We hear
I'm trying my best for you, Betty. Go to Florida.
Go to Florida.
So the third thing is, you need to have family meetings. And the surprising thing out of all the advice, strategic planning, everybody nods their head, sounds like business. Boards of advisors, everybody nods their heads, sounds like business. Family meetings, whoa, that's the third rail.
We have one every month. We have one on the first Wednesday of every month. It's usually 3 hours long. And my cousins, my uncle, my dad, my grandfather, sometimes my grandmother.
And the new employee,
The two cousins who are in the business now.
and they become big.
They are now in the family meeting.
And they go in the family.
Yeah.
They're usually the most difficult and contentious ones because now you're talking about the family. And it's way easier to say, it's a business, let's just talk business. Well, I'm still mad at you for like doing something you did like 6 years ago. And I want to talk about that when it comes up in business. So those are the three things: strategic planning, boards of advisors, family meetings. And I'm not saying they're causal to long-term success. But long-term successful businesses do those three things. So if you're looking to have a long-term family business, do those three things.
A comment on the I don't know if that would board of advisors. We have a store very successful. We're in Chelsea, 20 years there now. We have another one in Lynn, which my daughter started about 12 years ago. And hey, we're doing great. We're very niche market, Latinos, and we have some Latinos here in Chelsea. Okay. And we're competing with this little corner store here called Market Basket. Yeah. So, and we're growing. Okay, but hey, we want to grow. So we went to Rhode Island. Now, and again, it would have not made any of this, maybe, but if we had board of advisors, outside experts, that would question your assumptions. Because we're a family business and we made assumptions. Oh, hey, the store, same as Chelsea, look at Providence, has the highest density of Latinos per square foot in New England. No brainer. 4 years, we had to sell the business to get it the hell out. If not, we would have, we lost a lot of money.
Do we have one last question before we wrap up from anyone?
Just one question for you, I don't remember your
Matt.
name. What, you mentioned diversifying your income streams in your business. How do you do that with a car washing business?
Yes, that's a great question. So traditionally, obviously, my family's always been a business to consumer model. So people come in to the brick and mortar stores and they buy a car wash. So it was my job to try and find other revenue streams. So we've always had fleet accounts with police and state representatives and limousine companies. I built partnerships with Costco, BJ's, and Sam's Club so that they could start selling some of our washes in their stores. I built a partnership with AAA of New England so that they sell our car washes in their branches for a discount to members in the same way you sell movie tickets. I have a strategic partnership with Uber and Lyft so that we're offering as an exclusive car wash provider of discount programming to Uber and Lyft drivers in Boston. So those are some examples of how you build other revenue streams outside of the typical business to consumer model.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And we're gonna build a strategic partnership with Stop and Compare in Chelsea.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You guys don't go too far. Thank you, Ted. So first I'd like to thank our city manager, Tom Ambrosino, and City Councilor Leo Robinson for joining us this morning. I was remiss in doing that at the top. And if we could have our acting president, Joe Mahoney, come help me officially thank our guest speakers. So one of the perks of getting up early, and what'd you say, Upton?
Upton.
How long did that take you to get here? Came in by the Silver Line, by the way, which I have to really well, it's orange line, blue line. You know.
Silver Line.
So one of the perks of speaking at the Chelsea Chamber of Commerce is we give you a little thank you present, which is a Chelsea clock engraved with your name and the date of your speaking. So we'd like to present these to you. First up, Mr. Clark.
Thank you very much.
So it says presented to Ted Clark, Chelsea Chamber of Commerce, June 27th, 2018. I'm gonna give that- And similarly, Matt, one for you.
Ted, I'd like to have you take a picture.
Let me get up like that.
Yeah, exactly. Take the focus off.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, yes.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sergio.
Thank you very much.
There we go. Oh,
You're there.
Thank you.
All right, so happy summer, everyone. That wraps things up. Again, September 26th is our government breakfast. I'll be letting everybody know as soon as we can nail down our speaker. And have a good summer. School's out for summer. Enjoy.